She's the reason prosecutors say former President Donald Trump and his business associates falsified business documents and made hush money payments to the National Enquirer. It led to a trial Trump still calls election interference and unfair.
It's a rigged trial, a disgrace.
The tabloid threatened to publish a story Trump and his campaign believed could tank his campaign in the final months of the 2016 election. Adult film star Stormy Daniels and Trump spent a night together back in 2006. It was consensual, but Trump and his associates still believed it's unflattering.
Did you want to have sex with him?
No. But I didn't say no. I'm not a victim.
While she was initially represented by attorney Michael Avenatti, who would later go to prison for stealing thousands from her, among other crimes, in March of 2019, she found new representation right here in Tulsa. And for the last 5 years, and through the recent trial of Donald Trump, by her side has been Tulsa Attorney Clark Brewster, who himself has been at the center of some of the highest profile cases ever to be heard in Tulsa County Court. Thanks for joining us for this special edition of Fox 23 News at 6:30. Joining me now, live, unedited, and in his own words, is Tulsa attorney and attorney for Stormy Daniels, Clark Brewster. Clark, thank you for stopping by today.
My pleasure, Rick.
The biggest question I think people have had for years is, how did she find you here in Tulsa?
Well, we have a fairly national practice. I've had it for years, and she was referred by someone to contact me and discuss. She was very upset about what was happening in her case and with Michael Avenatti, and she called me on a Sunday afternoon. She said, I'm in Tulsa, can I come over and speak with you? And we set up a meeting in my office, and first I'd met her, and I agreed to represent her.
You did take over from Michael Avenatti, who had been stealing from her and many other things. Did you feel there needed to be a course correction of some kind?
I did. First of all, she wasn't sure that he was stealing. She thought there was something up. She was missing payments from a book, about $300 and some thousand, and it turned out that he had forged her name, directed the money to go to him, and then blamed the publishing company of not paying her timely. But we were able to determine pretty quickly that he had forged the name, he had cut and pasted it off her fee agreement, and we put a case together and asked the Southern District of New York to prosecute him, and they did. And so Stormy was very involved. She went to the grand jury, she testified in federal court, and he was convicted. That was in New York in the Southern District.
When I ask about the Avenatti you taking over is because I've covered your cases for years now, and you have always said to your clients, there's a time to talk to the media, and now is not the time. Had you been her attorney this entire time, would she not have gone on Jimmy Kimmel and the late night shows describing the president's anatomy and things like that?
Well, first of all, you might remember back in 2018, Michael Avenatti was on every national news show and was pretty active and having her on a lot of shows. And one of the conditions I had, she'll tell you this, when we met, is no press. We're not going to be out there in front of cameras. We're going to sit down and figure out what your legal rights are and proceed in a way that's deliberate and careful and based on the law and the facts. And so we didn't we stayed out of the press as best we could, except if we had to explain why we were doing a particular thing, and that's it. So she suddenly was out of the camera's eye after I took over in March of 18, until, of course, obviously the Trump trial.
Even before Alvin Bragg filed the charges, was there a feeling she was going to have to face the president at some point?
Yes, I think so. No, she didn't testify in front of the grand jury, and that was a choice the prosecutors made. I've come to know the prosecutors well, and we've spent a lot of time together with Stormy and just myself with them getting ready for that trial, and they were a very hardworking, bright, ethical team, truly. They really were. And but they chose not to call her in front of the grand jury, and so that was her first shot. When she walked in that courtroom, that jury was there, and it was a worldwide stage.
I want to ask you, what was that like, breaking that news to her? Like, they do want you to testify. What was that like for her?
You know, she was willing to help in any way. They subpoenaed her, frankly, as the lead up to the trial. But she was as we got closer, she was really gripped with fear. She really was. And matter of fact, as we got closer to that day in court, I mean, she really had a tough time emotionally. She was so gripped with fear that somebody would do something to her, not formally, but some lone wolf person, and I had to really deal with that. We had to spend a lot of time. My son, who's a lawyer as well, spent time with us, really kind of talking her through things, and I knew when she got on the stand, especially during cross-examination, she's incredibly quick-witted, she's very bright, she's got a great memory, she did a great job.
Well, I wanted to ask you about a specific part of her testimony. It was, she gave an interview where she said she was misquoted by the court reporter. She's quoted in the court documents as saying, "I blacked out." She said, "I didn't black it out. I blocked out the incident for her own mental health." Was that tough, shaking that loose for her, trying to get her to recount that?
It was. I mean, when women go through something like this, she wasn't raped. She said, "I'm not a victim," but she really was taken aback. She really was shocked as it was presented, and I'm talking about the sexual action and how it led to her that occurring. And it took a while to really process that, and she did have a real time, and she did block a lot of things out. But as things went on, she was able to recall very specifically, and she did a great job in really unfolding that memory in the courtroom.
Because you specialize in criminal defense, were you able to prepare her for this is what the Trump folks are going to be asking you?
No, I don't specialize in criminal defense.
Sorry.
I do a lot of criminal defense work, the ones that interest me that I really want to be involved in. Primarily, I do a lot of high-level civil stuff. But yes, I would know basically if I were the defense lawyer in that courtroom what to expect, and I explained that to her. This is where they're going to go, and this is what I think you need to be prepared for, and your memory's got to be keen on these points. She was spot on. She was a 10, honestly.
So how would you rate the Trump team's performance? Was it what you expected, or was worse, better? Or?
Honestly, anytime as a lawyer you walk in a courtroom, you see another lawyer work, you're like, that is a very good lawyer. That is a very interesting strategy. And I thought I would see some of that, and I didn't see any of it. I was really kind of not too impressed with the caliber of counsel, honestly, that he had. But the prosecution was keen, and they were very good.
What do you think about how the trial played out and everything? This is Oklahoma. A lot of people have heard former President Trump say it's a sham, it was a lie. Yeah. What do you think about, now that it's over, except for sentencing, how would you say this all played out?
Well, anyone that's charged with a crime that might lead to a conviction, I guess you could take the position that the court doesn't have authority, the judge is a joker, the jury can't be trusted, the prosecution has a personal vendetta. Or you can take the position, these are the facts, and these facts make me not guilty. They didn't do any of that. It was just a rant every day about the unfairness and how everyone was in the can for the prosecution. I didn't see any of that behind the scenes, and if I would have, I'd have been pretty perplexed by it. These prosecutors were very hardworking, very smart, very ethical, didn't ask Stormy to do anything that would be in any way improper. I didn't see any of that, and I thought the judge was very bright. If you read his rulings, they're very well cited and grounded. I was impressed with Judge Merchan.
Let me ask you this before we go to our commercial break. You've covered so many high-profile cases. Where does this one rank for you in your career?
Well, there's been some great cases that I've been involved with. I'm lucky to have been involved in them, but this is a worldwide case. This is one that the world was focused upon, where it's going to probably have some impact one way or the other in connection with this election, and it's historical. So representing her has been my honor. I'm proud of her and the way she conducted herself, frankly, and I'd put it up there at the top, probably.
We're going to take our first commercial break. When we come back, we will be looking at the future when it comes to sentencing, the Supreme Court's immunity ruling, and what is next for Mr. Brewster and Stormy Daniels, and how that relates to the 2024 election as well. We'll be right back.